Hello, welcome back to part 6 of the review of The Mother, and I am continuing where I left off. So at this point in the film, they have to go infiltrate the location in which the young girl is at. It's a fight. I was going through the review of the fight when Michael the archangel and the other angels went in to battle Satan and the serpent, which means the dragon was dropped down to the earth, and then the serpent, which is the devil himself. So with that being said, Michael and his angels fight against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but were defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that the ancient serpent who's called the devil Satan and the deceiver, the whole world, he was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in the heavens say, "Now the salvation and the power of the kingdom of God and the authority of Christ have come, for the accuser of the brethren and has been thrown down." What does this have to do with the film? In that moment, she comes in as a mercenary, taking out every single one of Hector's people, meaning she takes out every one of them. It was 12 malicious military men that were around the surroundings. Remember what I said when I was talking about the fact that she had been trained in combat. There's going to be a point, you know how they say when a caterpillar comes out of its cocoon, it has to fight? You, as a child of God, there's a level of fight, but because she is well skilled in what it is that she knows how to do. Remember when I listed all of the things that she was keeping up with for the 12 years that she was in her wilderness? Well, I'm going to tell you again what they were. She was combat trained. So with the combat training in which she had hand-to-hand combat, that she was able to come up on these people and able to stay within the blind spots, to take them out one by one, targeting to make sure that she snuck around these people out of camera ranges, people that were visibly unable to see her, operating in their blind spots, operating in this guy's camera's blind spots, being able to maneuver. You learned all of these things in your isolation, and you're going to be tested when you are coming out to fight your way out of that season in which you're in order to get out, get around, even bluff, to be able for her to get access to where this little girl was. She was able to get in and out like that. Why? Tactical training. She had all the training, all the skills, was able to get in and out, get this girl. And it's funny because the girl had a little bit of an attitude. This 12-year-old girl had a little bit of attitude, and you could tell the attitude she had was her mama's attitude. This was her mama's child, meaning this was this woman's child, and she knew it because the girl was trying to argue with her. She said, "I ain't got time for this. Come on." She went and got her back to William, the other agent, and she said, "I gotta go back and take care of Hector." So she went back in the fight as remember, the devil is in the midst of the fight with God's angels, so on and so forth. That Coming back to this part, the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony. The children of God, it is our testimony. It is our receiving the promise. It is our walking into what it is God has called for us to walk into, that there will be manifestation. But sometimes there's a fight to get there. She had to fight to get out. She had to fight to get to that little girl. The little girl is the promise. Promise of God. But the Lamb, God is the Lamb's blood, meaning Jesus. Because remember, Jesus comes back as what? A warrior. He's not coming back as the Lamb. He's coming back as a warrior. For they loved not their lives even unto death. Rejoice, O heaven, you that dwell therein, but woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. This man was trying to fight her, meaning he knew that he was coming in there. He actually thought that he was going to be able to fight and win this battle. This is the way Satan operates. You can be back. You are operating in God's will. You are operating in God's way. You come in there representing God, and you got your spiritual backing behind you. These angels that ain't gonna pardon the transgressions. This man sitting in a room with a whole bunch of candles, and she said, "How is it that you sitting up in here? You got all this military mercenary stuff to protect you, which by the way I already took out. God's gonna take out Satan's little minions." And he's sitting up there talking about all this stuff that he was going to do to her and this type of stuff. And we didn't even have a safety word, or it's like, we're going to use your safety word and this, that, and the other thing, and all the stuff that he's going to do her. Satan's sick. Satan's sick. That's what this guy was operating as. And, so, but at this point, the dragon saw he had been thrown down to the earth. She ends up taking this guy out and knocking him down. And what she does is she starts stabbing him, because she goes close combat. And one of her skills is to stab and continue to stab until she takes the person out and weakens them at close range. But the woman who had given birth to the male child now has 2 wings, but she is being pursued. She was given 2 wings of an eagle, that she might fly from the serpent, meaning getting out of that situation, getting away from this scenario. Because remember, she takes out this guy, but there was a second guy. So she is flown into, let's see. She might fly so that the serpent, okay. The woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness. She goes back into the wilderness. Catch what happens next in the film. After she done took this guy out, she takes the agent and the little girl. They headed back. They take a flight to the next location. They heading back. The little girl watching her. They are on the road to head back. Halfway there, she takes a rest stop to go get the snacks for everybody. She goes in and she's observant. She never takes her eyes. Remember, she's a watchman. She's watching everything. There are going to be points in time in your travels. She understands that she's being pursued. She understands and she has more wisdom to the scenario than they did. She separates herself from them. But before she goes, the little girl asks her, "Are you my mother?" And she said no. She does not want to gain or establish connection with this girl. Sometimes it feels like that with God, let's be honest. When God and you be having contact and stuff like that, you be praying, you be all of this type of stuff. Feel like God is like, why I feel so abandoned? Why don't you talk to me? Why? And he's like, you be telling me that we gonna do this, and he be like, wait, no. And you're like, God, but why? Why? I see this and da-da-da-da. Nah. The little girl gets in the car with the agent and tells the agent, why is it that she won't admit it? How come she will not admit it? Sometimes God acts in an authoritative mode because he's operating from a level of observance. He can see things that you cannot. He has full range of the battlefield in which you are walking into, and you want all the pieces, but he's like, no, I can't tell you everything. She watches them leave, but as she's watching them leave, she notices something. And you would think that she left to separate from them. No. She left because she was going to tail them. Remember, the woman comes out of the wilderness, but she's being pursued. She knew that car was being trailed. So she trailed behind them as they rode back. But an hour before they reached the destination, a convoy with the other guy, this is how the world works, Baal come out, operating in his religiosity, Satan operating in his imitation, gonna try to come take you out. I'm gonna even read up until this point. Let's see. To the place where she is to be nourished for a time and a half, that the serpent pours out like a river in its mouth to the woman, to sweep her away like a flood. I'm going to take the sweeping part of her away like a flood. There is a series of actions that occur up at this point where the car stopped, the convoy is there. They grab the guy that was driving the car. She takes the little girl and hides the girl behind her, but they end up shooting and killing the other agent. This is like a flood of situations and scenarios is all happening all at once, in order to bring about a level of confusion. She tells the little girl, take off running. Go now. And she jumps on the bike and rides after her, then pulls the girl on the bike, and they have to ride where? They have to take off into the wilderness. They got to go back to where her hiding place was. Because remember, there was a time and a half. So they go for breakfast, and she's like, what in the world's going on? And she's like, I got to take you somewhere. I got to teach you, because you're not going to be able to. God will sometime allow you to come out into the combat field to be tested. Sometimes you pass the test, sometimes you fail the test. It's not even that you are sent back into the wilderness because you failed the test. It's that he needs to recalibrate you for a time and a half. She needs to go into the wilderness with this little girl for a time and a half so that she can help her learn what's necessary to be able to function out in that kind of world and existence, because she didn't know whether she was going to run into that guy again, nor when. So she takes the girl and she goes into the wilderness, her wilderness, which was where she was staying before for that 12 years. She takes the girl, she takes the food and all this kind of stuff. She meets up with her contact, and they talk, but the little girl is smart. She's like, that guy is another military person and you speak in code. And she's sitting up there looking at the girl like, how in the world did you know that? Because it's her daughter. So they end up going back to the house, and over this time frame, I'm not going to make it long, I'm going to tell you that she teaches her. She makes it her point, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to get you up every single day. I'm going to make sure that you learn tactical training. Everything that she learned, she teaches her. What is that? She teaches her how to train in combat hand to hand, understanding blind spots, understanding how to run through a field, understanding that even if you're exhausted, you're still going to have to snipe shoot. She shows her how she does it. She does all of the things, how to sneak up on opponents, how to deal with sleeper agents, how to deal with all of these kinds of things, dealing with, and the girl's like, but I don't want to know all this. The girl gets caught up in looking at the wolves. She starts playing with the wolf cubs, but the mother shows her about how to deal with the wolf's mother. She's playing with the cubs, and the mother comes up behind her, and she said, how far is the mother away? She's like, she's right behind you. She about 5 other feet or yards away from you. She's like, oh, okay. She turns and she says, she tells the girl, run. The girl starts running, and she allows the wolf mother to chase the girl until she shoots the mother, or shoots at the mother. The girl said, you shot her. She said, no, I did not shoot her. I shot at her. She shoots at a rock and says, that's a salt bullet. The Lord showed me, and I guess I'll bring this up, the salt of the earth. Okay? Sometimes you have to go through a level of reinforcement. Some of you went into the wilderness, were brought out the wilderness, and then they put you back in. God put you back in the wilderness. You're like, what's why was I put back in the wilderness? So that the Lord could take care of the issue. Because what ends up happening is the girl later on gets bit in her hand because she was playing with them baby cubs again. And had to go to the local hospital, and she told her name. When she told her name, she had to be taken back to the woman's partner, and she said, look, I need you to watch her, and I need you to take her to where I tell you to take her, and keep going until I contact you. And the girl was crying. She's like, I hate you, and this, that, and the other, and all this kind of stuff. She's like, I know, but she knew that a battle was coming. Just like, coming back to this part, the serpent poured out a waver of a river out his mouth and flood, but the earth came to help the woman. This woman is going to go out to try to set up all the traps, because she knew that that guy was going to come looking for that little girl. And he did exactly that, and brought his mercenaries, and they came out in white camouflage because they were out in the middle of the Arctic, some daggone Alaska. But she had already set up the traps to take them out. God has already set up traps to take out the enemy. Understand, think back to Exodus when, is it Exodus? Yeah, when Pharaoh had his people come to follow the children of Israel out, God was luring them out. She knew that they were going to come anyway. She took out one of their men and put on their camouflage. For some of you, the places that God is taking you, you're going to have to look like the enemy. You're going to have to imitate the enemy. You're going to have to walk like the enemy. You're going to have to be perceived to be looking like they do. But you're walking in order to take out the enemies to God. And she starts taking them out, riding around on a snow ski to knock out each one of his people. But he blows up her cabin, and he manages to catch the little girl because the little girl wanted to be insubordinate and came right back. She drove the truck because the woman had taught her how to drive a car. She drove the truck right back to the house. And on her way back, she ran right into trouble. The guy took her and had her on one of the snow skis. She ends up having to knock the person out that was on the snow ski with her, takes her off of that snow ski and puts her on her snow ski. And they have to ride out. They get out of the confusion. And then she takes her up to what? Yet again, a watchtower. And they are watching to take out each of these individual opponents. God, the earth helped the woman, and it opened up its mouth, swallowing the river which the dragon had poured from its mouth. And then the dragon was angry, and the woman went off. Angry with the woman, and went off to make war on the rest of the offspring. The enemy, religion, government, church and state, whatever you want to call it, these industries, they have their movements, they have their trends. Remember the 7 mountains, they come operating from a level of government, setting the trends, setting through the entertainment industry, the arts, the music, all of these kinds of things, in order to have a overarching system in the family and the household through your social media platforms, your television, all of these kinds of things coming into your house. And then there's a level of religiosity that tries to dumb down, and change overarching and trying to bombard to make war with the children of God. Because that's what it really is. They're making war with the children of God and the will of God's way, for which the direction in which God is desiring to take his people. But God's the ultimate sniper. And the woman ends up taking out the majority of the guy's men. And she ends up face to face with this man by herself. They end up at combat. She told the girl, do not fight with this man. Do not shoot. I don't want you to take the shot. She's like, but I know how to take the shot. She's like, no, don't do it. But when she ends up, just like the woman, ends up bombarded, she ends up in a fight with this man, and she's face to face with him. A decision has to be made, and she says, take the shot. Then the guy realizes that the girl's up there somewhere. But see, what ends up happening is he's assuming that she's going to take the shot and shoot her so that both of them get injured. But when she takes the shot, she was smart enough to remember the salt pellet. That's probably the only reason that they showed that scene in the first place, was because she was going to end up using that salt pellet to shoot her in the shoulder, which threw her out of the way. But the guy ends up catching the little girl. She ends up falling, rolling, and then hitting her ribs on the side of a rock. And she's passed out. Remember, the woman got bombarded. Remember, they tried to wash her out. Remember that. So the little girl is in the car with him. So she finally wakes up. Seems like a lot of time passed, but I don't think it was that much. She wakes up and she thinks, I've been shot. But then she realizes it's the salt. The salt shot. And she gets up, puts her arm back into relocation. Whole lot of pain. Then she takes the rifle and she shoots when she recognizes where the car is going, and she shoots at him. The first shot didn't go off, but the second shot, and each time she shot, it hurt her like hell because her arm was in pain and her rib cage was in pain. So when she made the second shot, she got him. The little girl gets out the car, runs out and runs to her aid, and hugs her. And she actually receives the hug. The whole time she'd been rejecting this girl, but this time she received it. So she ends up taking the little girl home. And in her taking the little girl home, she comes to the realization that she wants to change her life. So she ends up moving to a place closer to where the little girl lives. And it ends with the little girl going to school. But she looks up into the window of a house or an apartment complex, and she makes a rifleman's aim. And when she does the rifleman's aim, you see the mother, her mother, standing in the window. And she acts like, "You got me in the heart." And she has a bracelet that says "Mom." So, and lo and behold, the very song that I just did a review on, but this was the female version, the original version of A Woman's Worth, with the end song to this film. If you didn't see that, go back and look at my review for that song. So God's in the midst of all of these things. Okay. I hope this blessed you. And this is pretty much the end of this. I wasn't expecting to be done with it in one more video, but that's where God led me. So I believe I covered everything. And I didn't even need to talk about that other part. So that was everything. So God is in the midst of it, and He is in control. So I hope this blessed you. I hope you gained a little bit of understanding. And God's not playing. God's not playing at this point. He's not. So I hope you gained understanding and wisdom from this. And until next time, much love, faith, peace, and blessings. Bye-bye.